Chandrayaan-2 know the 4 stages the spacecraft will go through. Chandrayaan-2, the pride of our nation, and dubbed as ISRO's most complex mission so far, took flight on 22nd July aboard GSLV Mark III, India's biggest and most powerful rocket. Right now, it is orbiting around the Earth in an orbit of 170 kilometers by 39,120 kilometers. There are 3 basic constituents of the spacecraft: orbiter, the Vikram lander, and the Pragyan rover. From this time to the one when it lands on the moon, the spacecraft will go through these 4 phases or stages. 1. Earthbound phase. This phase will last for 23 days and it'll be till 13th August. During this phase, the Chandrayaan-2, while orbiting around Earth, will perform 4 orbit-raising maneuvers. This essentially means that the spacecraft will fire its motor on 4 separate occasions. So, it will swing around and will use its gravity every time to increase speed and altitude, because of which each orbit will elongate and will be larger than the previous one. Doing this for 4 times will enable the spacecraft to obtain enough velocity and altitude, and it will then be able to escape Earth's gravitational pull and be on its way to the moon. 2. Lunar Transfer Trajectory Phase. This is actually the name of the path that the spacecraft will take to coast towards the moon. This phase will last for 8 days, after which the Chandrayaan-2 will enter the moon's influence of gravity. It will happen on 20th August if all goes well. During this phase, the spacecraft will move towards the moon's neighborhood, leaving behind the Earth's neighborhood. 3. Lunar bound phase. Beginning from day 1, on the 30th day of the launch, the spacecraft will change its orientation. That means, instead of facing towards the moon, it will face away from the moon. After that, it will need to slow down, and for that, it will fire its retro thrusters, which will slow it down. Once it has slowed down sufficiently, it will insert itself into an elliptical insertion orbit. Now, it will do something opposite of what it did in the earthbound phase to elongate the orbit. It will lower itself using maneuvers to shorten the orbit, and on the 5th one, it will settle into its final orbit, which will be 100 kilometers from the lunar surface. The orbital insertion process is expected to take nearly 13 days and will reach its end on 1st September. 4. Landing phase. Counting from day 1, on the 43rd day, that is on 2nd of September, the lander Vikram will separate from the orbiter. For 5 days, it will keep slowing down its speed while orbiting around the moon. On 7th September, it will finally start its descent and will perform a soft landing near the southern polar region. After it has landed, it will stabilize itself completely and then open a hatch, lowering a ramp and releasing the Pragyan rover. What after the 4th phase? After the rover has been released, the lander and rover will function for 14 Earth days, which equals to half a lunar day. These 14 days are important because there is going to be continuous daylight for these many days, and the constant intense sunlight will gradually fry the vehicle's circuits. After this, when the 14 Earth day long night starts settling in, the temperatures will drop, the vehicles will begin to freeze with no scope of ever functioning again. After all this happens, the orbiter will still stay in the orbit and transmit data for a minimum of 1 year. Doesn't this all mesmerize you and make you so proud of being an Indian? Yes, it does.